I think that Aleister Crowley even mentioned that the language of magic is more about language than it is about magic. The idea of a grimoire, a dark book of spells. Grimoire is simply another way of spelling grammar. According to Crowley, to cast a spell is simply to spell. When we think of the fact that most of the magic gods that various cultures have created or worshipped in the past, characters like Hermes, Mercury, Thoth, these are not only the gods of magic, they are also the scribe gods. They are the gods of writing.
That was the comic book writer Alan Moore. He is the person who wrote The Killing Joke, Watchmen. He is also the person who wrote Promethea. If you have not read Promethea and you have any interest in Hermetic occultism, I highly recommend you go read Promethea, because Promethea is a full-on Hermetic philosophy lecture in the form of a 32-volume comic. And anyone familiar with the Kabbalah and Hermetic Kabbalah specifically should know why that 32 is significant. Welcome in. I know we have a lot of new people from my appearance on the Postmodern Iconoclast. I was on the podcast with Georgina Rose. She invited me on. We talked about Grimoires. It's good fun. I really enjoyed it. Link will be in the description. Today we're going to be talking about why I hate the Almadel, I guess. This is going to be kind of a weird one, because we're going to be talking about the Almadel, and originally this video was going to be the Almadel, the Ars Pauline, and the Ars Theurgia Goetia, which we will be talking about the Ars Pauline and the Theurgia Goetia in their own video that should be released fairly soon. However, I need to talk about the Almadel specifically because the Almadel is an interesting case study in what happens when we have a very broken grimoire. So let's get into that. So, for those unfamiliar with the Ars Almadel, the Ars Almadel is the final book in the Lesser Key of Solomon. I'm not counting the Notoria until we get Stephen Skinner's copy of it, which actually has the notary in it, god damn it, because that's the only way that book functions. So, the Ars Almadel is the last book in the Ars Goetia that actually functions properly in its current form. Kind of. Now, the thing about the Ars Almadel is that the Ars Almadel is actually a corrupted version of another grimoire called the Ars Almandel, which is an Arabic text. The problem with the Almadel is that it is missing 9 different choirs of angels, and one of the choirs of angels in the Ars Almadel, because there is 4, is completely and totally butchered. It is not compatible with the other angels. So, and if you look at it, if you look at the text, the final hierarchy of angels, well, not hierarchy, but, the final collection of angels, all have their names ending in Ea or Ea, or El, something like that. Now, that in modern day sounds fine, but if you look at the rest of the book, that is not how the rest of the book is laid out. In fact, in the rest of the book, it looks like quite a few of those names are actually, they don't end in El or Ea. They end in, these weird other, they don't even have suffixes most of the time. They just come across as very weird. And if you didn't know they were angels, you might consider them like other nature spirits, honestly. But they're said to be angels, so they're considered angels. Now, the thing about the Ars Almadel is that the Ars Almadel is a pain in the ass to get working. And this is actually kind of sad, because the Ars Almadel actually, if you look at traditions that were inspired by the Ars Almadel, we actually find that the Ars Almadel inspired the Enochian experiments of Dr. John Dee. It was pointed out, I believe, by Aaron Leach. I could be wrong. It was pointed out by Aaron Leach, I think, that the Almadel has a striking similarity to the Enochian system. I believe he did this in his Secrets of Grimoires book. The thing about the Almadel is that the Almadel is a broken system because we have older source materials from the Ars Almadel. We even know that the Almadel was actually not originally wax. The Almadel is actually a metal structure, if I remember correctly. So we know that this is not correct. So here's the question. If we know it's correct, if we know it's not correct, does it still function properly? And the answer to that question is maybe. It depends. Now the reason it's a maybe is because if it is actually we're basing on the Almadel, and we go back to an earlier source and we modify the earlier source to function the way that the newer source does, it should work properly. Because in between the original Almadel and the Almadel, there was a long transitionary period where it looks like the grimoire was modified and it had various translations, and it's the problem of you have multiple different books that are written by different people that were all under the same name and they were all published under the same name. That was a thing that happened in medieval times, and this is one of the unfortunate side effects of it. We don't know what the original text was. Now, fortunately, in the case of the Almadel, we do. We do know the case of the Almadel. However, we need to step back, and if we look at this like we're working out of the Almadel, we can go back and we can modify the old system using the information we have to make the Almadel function more closely to its original incarnation, which would require getting rid of that fourth section of angels that doesn't apply, re-adding in the other 9, adding in instructions for the other 9 different wax tables, because I believe one of the wax tables is actually just not supposed to be that color. And you can go through and you can use it that properly. In case I haven't mentioned, the Ars Almadel, the basic structure of the Ars Almadel is you make a wax altar and you get a bunch of furnitures, which is to say incense and an incense burner and robes, and you get all of them together. You burn some mastic under the wax altar, just enough to not burn the altar or melt the altar. And then the smoke rises through holes in the altar. It stands on 4 candles. And you would make one of those in different colors for each of the different kinds of spirits you were attempting to evoke. Now, that sounds very good on paper. However, the issue is modern Almadel copies we know are corrupted because, again, we have the more older source. And I want to touch on some more modern versions of this. And I want to just kind of ask the question, what is the most important thing? Because if we are a grimoire purist, the Ars Almadel is unworkable. If we are a grimoire purist, the Ars Almadel, as it was originally written, is unworkable in its current state because we have the wrong instructions. But it should work because the Ars Almadel is its own different structure. It's not functioning under the rules of the Almadel. It's functioning under its own rules. So, the question is, I want to ask, and I'm going to answer for you, is, does intention matter if you're working in a grimoire system? And if you're working in a magical system, does your intention actually matter? The answer to this question, I've personally found to be yes and no. Technically, it's all yes, but what seems to happen, and I'll give an example. This was a recent example. A friend of mine was trying to do a money spell, and what ended up happening was they ended up doing a money spell, but they ended up accidentally doing an invocation of Venus. And they didn't know what would happen. They thought it would be successful, and it was kind of successful, but they weren't really clear with what they wanted. They just wanted things to expand. and they had invoked Venus, but they had all these Jupiterian things around them. They had done it in the hour of Jupiter, in the day of Jupiter. So it was kind of like you've got this massive Jupiterian influence, but they have invoked Venus. What ended up happening was money didn't really come. Money didn't really show up. However, their social life and all of the fun things in their life started to drastically pick up. Their interactions with other people, they ended up becoming more attractive to other people. They ended up getting more popular socially, and all of this social and Venerian things happened and expanded quite drastically. However, they did not get the money that they were expecting. And the question becomes, did the spell fail? And the answer to that question, in my opinion, is no. The spell didn't fail. However, the spell did do what it said it would do according to the system. Now, the system, if you're having a bunch of Jupiterian effects and you are invoking Venus, would be expanding your social sphere, and it would be your social sphere would expand, so that their social life would expand, and that is exactly what happened. And so, if we look at this, the system they were using said social life should expand, but their intention was money expansion, financial wealth, financial income, that kind of thing. And this is not what happened. So when we look at this, it's pretty clear that your intention matters, but the system you're using matters a little bit more. And what happens in your ritual depends on, partially, what your ritual does within your system. If you want to use a Jupiterian money spell and you are invoking Venus, well, it will expand your social life instead. If you want to do another kind of spell and you're using the wrong forces, it might do something adjacent to it. It won't do exactly what you want if you do the ritual wrong. Which brings us back to that clip from the beginning. Alan Moore pointed out in that clip at the very beginning that a grimoire is a book of grammar for magic. It is a book of spells, and if you spell wrong, you get different words. You know, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. But if you misspell God and you flip it around, you get dog. And those are different words, but they're spelled with the same letters. So even just rearranging the parts can get you different effects in your spell work. Because that's kind of how that works. And the thing about grimoires and magic of that nature is that it's important to look at the meanings of these words. Because a lot of the Hermetic school, at least, talks about language. Language is very important. It is thought that God made the world with a word, and he spoke the world into existence. So language is very important in that tradition, at least. And what ends up happening with that is the grimoire tradition is heavily inspired by the Hermetic school of thought. And the Hermetics we love our wordplay. We love putting blinds in books because of our very, very dense language. It's kind of like a phrase that I really like. The element of earth is the only element that matters. Which, on one level, means, it's the only element that's actually important. And on the other, and that is technically true if you know a little bit more about the element of earth, but it's also the only physical element. So it is literally the only element that is made up of matter, or matters in that case. That is kind of a funny thing. So I just wanted to bitch about the Almadel and about kind of introduce you guys to the concept of Hermetic wordplay. More videos to come. Sorry this one took me so long. I have been trying to wrangle how I wanted to cover the Almadel for this long. It's been a while. Next video will be on the Ars Pauline and the Thargia. And then we will get into the demons, but we're going through the angels first. Leave a comment. If you guys have any comments, like if you want to leave about what grimoires and what books you want me to cover and like read as like a pragmatic, practical occultist, leave them in the comments. I might take a look at them because, I'm just covering the basics in my opinion right now. But have a good one. Take it easy. And you have a good day. I hope everyone watching this has a good day. You deserve it. Take care.